Hello, sweethearts. Welcome back to Fieros Reborn. I'm Fieros. I'm reborn. This is my channel. Hello. We're going to be doing Fieros' story time again. Now, I want to reiterate the point that I'm going to be stopping these videos at some point in the future. And when the videos get to the point of when I have fully weaned myself off the medication. I'm talking about in terms of the story timeline. Yeah, I don't mean in real life. I don't have any medication now because I've already weaned myself off it. But when I've managed to tell the story up until the point, in the point in time in like basically January 2014, where I had successfully weaned myself off all medications. Yep, that when the story gets to that point, then that's the point that I've designated to finish doing all videos for a year. Or no, it's actually until the beginning of 2020. The year 2020, not 20 past 8 in the evening. No, yeah, however, I feel like maybe I'll need to talk around what happened between 2014 and 2018. Like between that time and the present day. But I might do that before I actually finish the story. I mean, it might just happen kind of naturally. You know, it's difficult to judge how I'm going to do my videos and how I'm going to tell the story because things just pop up, and it's not been a particularly linear story. For example, I feel like I may need to go back and retell, like summarize where we've got to, as in, yeah, summarize from not 2018, 2004 to the point that we got to in the story, which is so far the point that the most up-to-date point that we're at is I believe it is around 2000 and late 2007, early 2008. Yeah, late 2007, early 2008, where I'm in the throes of what the medical profession and my parents would call psychosis, but I'm in the throes, from my perspective, of everyone being dicks to me, basically, and not leaving me alone and constantly annoying me and constantly trying to get me to take medication that I do not see a need for, and so on. Yeah. And constantly telling me about this illness that I supposedly have that I do not personally experience myself. So that's where we got up to in the story, and the and then I need to tell everything that happens up until 2014, and then well, I can briefly summarize what happens after 2014 to 2018, but I feel like in a way that deserves a whole nother set of videos. Yeah, it's a big thing in itself what happened after I came off medication, because that's not the end of the mental health story, because from that point on I took my own mental health and emotions into my own hands like some kind of lone lone ranging gunslinger of emotion. I don't know. I became independent emotionally. I became independent of my family. I became independent of the medication. I started smoking, so I became dependent on cigarettes and tobacco. But overall, my life became more of an independent life, whereas previous to the 2014 cutoff point, the medication cutoff point, previous to that, I'd been living in various degrees of emotional and psychological and even spiritual dependency on my parents, on government systems as well, like the mental health system, things like that, drugs, mental health drugs, whatever you call them, medications, yeah. And so I'd been living in like various degrees of dependency in various different ways. And so 2014 marked a beginning point of a new life, basically. A new life, a new sense of identity. That's when I came up with the idea of Fieros. Um, and I started to turn my life around, which just means started to do things slightly differently than I was doing them before. Yeah, and a change in my feelings came about as well. A new sense of optimism about life came. A new sense of appreciation for life came. A genuine appreciation, because I'd found that before, the situations I was finding myself in, I was saying stuff like, "Oh, yeah, you have to go through stuff to appreciate the good stuff in life." But I didn't really believe that. But after 2014, I started to really actually genuinely appreciate the beauty of life and the people in life around me, and things like the sunset and the sunrise, and um, my appreciation of life and other people rose when I came off medication. And another aspect was I had this big chip on my shoulder as well, and I felt like I needed to prove myself, and I felt like I needed to prove myself as an independent being, and I needed to prove myself in my career life. I need to prove myself in my creative life to myself and to other people. But this is a side point. But whenever you prove yourself to other people, all you ever do is you receive the experience of other people approving of you, or saying well done, or giving you appreciation or whatever. So it's like when you're trying to prove yourself to someone, all you're doing is you're trying to convince another person of your worth. But if you already know that you have worth, then you don't need to go about trying to prove yourself, if that makes sense. I think that does make sense. I'm pleased with that. Yeah, okay. Hmm. Mm. And so the 2014 mark, um, a little bit of 2013 as well. There was a lead up to this 2014 cutoff point of the medication, but 2014, I was doing various things to help myself. Like I was going to different support type groups. I don't know if in 2014 I was still going to group therapy or not, but I went to group therapy certainly in 2013 and maybe 2014 as well. I was having counselling as well, private, independent, individual counselling that I was funding using money that I was earning from busking, mainly in Slough, but sometimes also in Windsor, and sometimes in Staines, and sometimes in Reading, and sometimes in Oxford, and sometimes in Maidenhead. I think those are all the places. I tried to busk in, where was it? It was near Leicester Square or something, and I got told to move along straight away by a police person, which was so annoying because there was other people who had been playing there for hours and they hadn't got moved along, and I'd suddenly just picked a bad moment when a police person come along, and I don't think the other person had a license either, and it's like, oh man, just got moved along straight away. It sucked. I went all the way to London. It took me like 2 hours to get there with all my equipment, and it was long and tiring. And I thought I'll go to London to make loads of money. I played a couple of songs and got moved along, and I just thought I can't be bothered to set everything up again because I'd have to, you have to pack everything up. Because I had an amplifier, a guitar, microphone, my guitar case with money in, lyrics books and stuff, and like probably maybe a music stand, maybe not. I can't remember. I had my lyrics book, so if I was going to have lyric book, then I'd have my music stand as well. So yeah, microphone stand. Did I mention that? Yeah, microphone stand. It was just, and it was all on my back in this backpack, and maybe I had an extra trolley or something as well. I can't remember. But yeah, so I just thought I can't be bothered to reset everything up again because I'm just gonna get moved along again. I think I actually decided to go. Maybe I did go to a different place briefly, and I got there, and there was other people already busking, and I thought, oh, just bollocks to it. I'm just gonna go home. It was a really horrible day of busking. It was the worst day. Was it the worst day of busking ever? Probably not, but it was a really bad day of busking because I didn't earn hardly any money at all, maybe £5 maximum, and that's what came in, and my train fare was like £13 or something like that for the travel card. Can't remember what it was. Maybe less than that, because at that time I think I still had a disability rail card, which I got from being part of the mental health services. They filled in a form, and because I was receiving a disability living allowance benefit at that time as well, still, that I qualified for a disability rail card, which gave me 30% off or 33% off or something. Yeah. Mm. That was a good thing, man. I should try and wangle that again somehow. I can't really wangle it though. One of the reasons why I came off the disability living allowance is because I think probably technically at the time that I applied for it, it was relevant to my needs, although I felt like it wasn't relevant. We were signing this form. This was after I'd come out of hospital. So again, I'm darting around the story, I know, but that's how it's coming out. What was I saying? God. Yeah, I'd come out of hospital, and it was fairly soon after I'd come out of hospital that I was filling in some forms about benefits that I could apply for, and I could apply for a bus pass, and I could apply for a disability rail card, and I could apply for cheap gym membership and stuff like this. Stuff like that. Stuff like this is incorrect grammar, and I picked that up off Polish people, because Polish people tend to use stuff like this rather than stuff like that. And I just realised I picked that up off Polish people a long time ago, when I used to drive home one of the Polish worker guys at the restaurant I worked at when I was 19. I used to drive him home, and he would always use the word stuff like this or things like this, and blah 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 blah, stuff like this, and he would never use the word that, which is correct grammar, of course. There we go. That's just a minor revelation. I mean, I knew that anyway, but I sort of prefer to say stuff like this in a way than stuff like that. That sounds more harsh. The word that sounds a bit more harsh than stuff like this. So I think partly that's why I say stuff like this as well, because I think it sounds softer. It does sound softer to me to say stuff like this. That's just a little point about my language use. So I was filling in these different forms. And at the time I was majorly depressed, but some of the boxes that we ticked on the form weren't accurate to say that we ticked statements that I didn't personally feel were accurate. There were some things like, can you make a meal by yourself? And my heart of hearts said, yes, I could make a meal by myself if I had to, but she's just my community mental health nurse put a tick in that box, like to say, no, I can't make a meal if I have a meal by myself. And then she ticked the box as well that said, do you need support when you're out and about? And I kind of felt like, well, I'd like support when I'm out and about. Like, it said something like, do you feel okay or safe to go out on your own without having a panic attack or something like that? I can't remember the exact phrasing of the thing, but we ticked that I wouldn't be okay to go out by myself, which at the time I was pretty shaky on my feet, not physically, but in my emotional sense. I was pretty broken. I was a broken man. Really. I was a shell of my former self. I was depressed. I was hunching. I was unable to think clearly, really. I couldn't assert myself. This was after hospital and still on medication. That's around the time of probably late 2008, early 2009. I can't exactly say for sure. But, okay, so back to this busking thing. That was something that I was doing between the years of 2014 and about 2016, I suppose. Regular busking. But that eventually became a nightmare as well. Anyway, let's now rewind back to the point that I was at in the last video, which was my hair looks silly. What was that point I was at? Oh God, I'm telling you all about the all the nonsense and drama that I created. Basically, I created it in my family. Yeah, hiding things around the house, moving objects about. I used to take pictures off the walls and put them elsewhere, rearrange things. It's not particularly malicious, but it was certainly chaos inducing for the family, and they weren't happy with what I was doing. Fair enough. I think it was a strange way of just trying to communicate on a deeper level with my family, to try and go beyond surface level physical life and try and talk about emotions and to talk about feelings and the things that matter, but it wasn't coming out in any particularly understandable way. I was trying to communicate with them these philosophical ideas, these spiritual ideas, this sense of authentic living, and it wasn't going across at all. And so I was resorting to more and more outrageous ways to try and communicate with them that were falling on more and more deaf ears. And it was just a whole bundle of madness. Not just me, my whole family was just thrown into chaos by my behaviour. My behaviour was a key phrase. Your behaviour, that kept coming at me. Your behaviour, your behaviour, your behaviour. The amount of times I heard that little phrase, your behaviour, especially from my dad. Your behaviour is doing this. Your behaviour did this to me. Your behaviour is like this. Your behaviour, what about your behaviour, 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 your behaviour. Well, what about your behaviour, people? Not just this person. What about you and 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 you? Mother, brother, father, auntie, uncle, cousin, grandparent, other grandparent, mental health worker 1, mental health worker 2, sectiony person 1, sectiony person 2, sectiony person 3, not GP, psychiatric doctor 1, psychiatric doctor 2. What about you people? And all your judgment and your labelling and you're chasing me around. Police officer 1, police officer 2, police officer 3. So many police officers. Police car 1, police car 2, police van 1. Just lay it all out. These are the characters. These are the objects concerned. And these are the artifacts. Yeah. So I caused a big load of chaos in my family by moving shit around, by shouting and screaming occasionally as a way of expressing my emotions. I basically wasn't in control of my behaviour in the usual way, which is strange because I don't feel completely in control of my behaviour anyway. It's really weird that I feel this is the weird thing. I feel like I'm the same person, or I'm in the same state of consciousness or awareness as I was when I was supposedly psychotic, but somehow I have just enough level of control over my impulses to get away with it. Yeah, to get away with it, kind of thing. Like, I do occasionally shout and squeal when no one's looking or listening, but I've managed to confine it to when no one's looking or listening. Whereas before I wouldn't have that boundary set on myself. I just, if I started feeling an emotion, I'd just let it out straight away. Whereas now I have a certain level of containment within my own body to account for and to allow for large emotions without necessarily shouting and squealing in the middle of the bank or when talking to a relative. Although, to be fair, I have occasionally just let my filter go, and it's not like I'm choosing to do it. It's just because the situation seems to allow for it. I say that this is what I tend to say is the situation allows for it, which means that no particularly negative consequences will come from the releasing of the inner demon. So, like, for example, this is recent, this next part. My nan came along, and she doesn't tend to come to this house, but she came along to this house, a couple of years ago? Maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. She came. She lives far away. I will delineate between my gran and my nan. So my nan is my father's mother. So it's my grandmother on my dad's side, and my gran is my mother's mother, my grandmother on my mum's side. So gran is mum's and nan is dad's, right? So Nana, we call her Nana, but I don't want to call her Nana. I would rather call her my nan, because that's how you will understand it. My nan came along, right, and she's not been here for a while, and I'm sat outside my window, as in I would like have a little perch, kind of sat on my window ledge, having a cigarette out the window, right? So I just sit there, bum on window ledge, legs out on the roof, having a smoke, just because it's easier, more comfortable to sit than to stand like this, smoking out the window. Not that I do it anymore, but when I was a smoker, when I did the old smoking thing all the time, because I have had a few sneaky bits of puffing away lately. I've had 1 or 2 cigarettes. I tend not to finish them though, because I don't really like them. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I sat on the roof, perched on the window ledge, legs outside, having a smoke out the window. And my nan shows up in the car. Can't remember what for, some occasion or other. Not Christmas, but something like that, maybe. Maybe it was Christmas. Who knows? So she came along and she said something like, "You look like you're about to throw yourself off there." And it, like, in a particularly negative sounding, judgmental sort of voice, like, that was the first thing she'd said to me. It wasn't like, "Hello, how are you?" It's like, "You look like you're about to throw yourself off there." And I don't even think she heard what I said next, but I said to her, "Oh, fuck off," really loudly. I'm like, go fuck yourself," I think I said really loudly and sharply. And it's a testament to the fact that some people will just they're not actually listening to things sometimes. Maybe a train went by at the same time as I said it, but I just went, "Oh, go fuck yourself," really loudly, in direct response to her negativity and judgment of me. And I don't think she heard it, and she's heard it, and she's not particularly deaf. I did shout it particularly loudly. I thought it was the perfect representation of how I feel based on how she was judging me and condescending or something. Like, it wasn't even necessarily judgment, it's just a negative way of greeting me, like, fuck off. So I think I said, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was either, "Oh, fuck off," or, "Oh, go fuck yourself," or, "Oh, fuck you," something like that. And I never said anything like that to my nan at the time, ever. Worst set of words that had ever come out of me. And I don't think she even heard it. Never mentioned it. No one else seemed to have heard it either. Like, my dad was there, and I think my mum was there as well. No one heard it, and I'm like, well, selective hearing or something then, isn't it? Selective perception. And maybe the train did go by in the background. I don't know. I said it pretty loud. I mean, it just depends. Like, it depends on the level of someone else's negativity or denial or whatever. If someone's being really in denial or negative, I will occasionally shout at them to snap people out of it. Or as I say, I don't have full control over myself. I don't have full control over what I'm saying now. I just kind of open my mouth and or sit in front of the camera and just let shit come out. It's not like I'm choosing the exact words to say. It's just continuous flow of nonsense. Anyway, so that was that. Right, let's go back to the story. So yeah, I was causing chaos in my family situation. This was around the time of 2007, late 2007, early 2008, because I know it was around that period because I came back from America. I'm going to try not to refer to anything. I came back from America in late 2007, and I went into hospital in the psychiatric ward in March or April 2008. So there's like a period of 6 months, I suppose. Yeah, between coming back from America and going into hospital on a Section 2 in Wexham Park Hospital, Ward 10, the psychiatric ward that was there at that time. I don't think it's there anymore, because I believe that all mental health facilities from this area have been transferred to a hospital in Reading called Prospect Park. But don't quote me on that. That's just the latest I heard, and bearing in mind I don't really keep up with it anymore. But I'll check now, just for accuracy's sake. Ward 10, Wexham Park Hospital. Oops, Wexham Park. Wexham Park Hospital. Frimley Park. What? Working as a nurse. Ugh. Oh, oh, I don't know. Who fucking cares? When it was 2008, I did go into Ward 10 of Wexham Park Hospital, which was a psychiatric ward at the time. So there's a period of 6 months where I'm not in America and I'm not in hospital. I'm at home. I live here. I move between my normal bedroom, which was the bedroom that I had since I was 12 or 13, probably 13. I'll just tell you a little bit about my house and my bedroom. So we've got a 4-bedroom house here. My parents moved into it when I was 1.5 years old. 1.5 years old. We had a cat called Puss, or Pussykins, or Pusscat. Pussy. She didn't really have a name. Pussykins was the longest name that she had. That was her full name. Pussykins McGee. No, it was just Pussykins. Pussykins Wilson. Pussykins. Pusskins. Pusscat. Pussy. Puss. Yeah. So we had her. She died eventually, as all cats do, unless there's one supreme overlord cat that is just the eternal cat of life, which sits above all the spirits of all the cats, maintaining their catness, and just like a cat in the ether, in this kind of heavens in the sky, whatever, looming over planet Earth, just observing the cats of human catkind. Human catkind. Observing all cats in domestication and just meowing over them. And just taking care of them, like the cat god. Yeah. But other than that, all cats, if they pop up, they go meow meow. They run around for 20 or so years and then they die. So our cat, Pusskins, Pusscat, Pussykins, here Puss, she died. She actually died while I was on a holiday as well with Mr. B in Cyprus, which was annoying. But that's confusing the plotline. So let's. I'm talking about my bedrooms first. So we've got a 4-bedroom house here. There's a master bedroom, which was my mum and dad's. They've subsequently divorced, so it is now just my mum's room. It was also briefly for a period of time my brother and his wife's bedroom. After my parents divorced, my brother got married, and him and his wife moved in to that room temporarily while they were looking for a house to buy or rent or flat or something, whatever. Yeah. So we've got 3 bedrooms. When we all moved in, I was 1.5. I was 1.5 years old. Okay, and it was just my parents, me, and the cat. They'd moved here to a bigger place for me and a bigger place to raise a family. But I don't know how big the place was previous to that, which was in Hayes. I don't have any memories of that place at all. I have memories of this place from an early age, but I've also got photos of this place from an early age, and I was shown photos kind of as I was growing up as well. So although I didn't initially remember my earlier life here, seeing the photos later on did remind me of it. So yeah. So I started off in the front bedroom of this house, which is a small bedroom, and then some stuff happened in there where I pooed on the floor by accident because I didn't get to the toilet in time. I don't think I even noticed that it just happened, and a poo crawled down my pajama leg while I was playing this Turtles board game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hero Turtles. It was Hero Turtles back in those days. I'll try and get my hands back in again. Yeah, so Oh, what was I saying? So I had the small room to begin with. Then and my brother came along when I was 4 years 10 months old. So he's 4 years 10 months younger than me. I'm 4 years 10 months older than him. I am so logical. um, Logical, yeah. Okay. So he came along, and he was maybe initially in my mum and dad's room in a cot. Then he was moved into like the bigger back bedroom. So mum and dad's bedroom, or the master bedroom, was at the back of the house. Is at the back of the house. There's another bedroom at the back of the house. He was moved into that room in his cot, and then he had that room for a while when he was out of his cot. But like soon after I realized that that room that he was in was bigger, I magically transferred all of my stuff into that room and all of his stuff somewhere else. Not that he had much stuff; he was still a toddler, I think, and he didn't really notice. So yeah, I did a switcheroo on him there. I don't think I even told my parents until I'd already done it. Because I was just like, that room's bigger. I want the bigger room. So I switched it all into there. And that was, I feel like that's my room. Because that was the room, like the room I'm in now still doesn't really feel like my room. Because, yeah, it's weird. It's weird because my first room was the small room. And I don't feel like that's my room either. But the second room that I was in does feel like my room. But the most recent person to have been in it was actually my brother, because my brother went back to that room when I moved into the final room. As in, this is the room I'm in at the moment. Used to be the spare bedroom with a double bed in it for guests, and we put a computer in there. So we used to play computer games in there, but there wasn't anything in there other than like a wardrobe, a double bed which was pinned against the wall. Like my dad had made this fold down bed that stayed against the wall most of the time, so it's mainly just an open room, nothing in there. Radiator, computer desk thing in the right hand corner, with a computer on it, and then a wardrobe. I think, I don't even know if there was a chest of drawers, but yeah, it was pretty empty in there. And it was a room that we used to play hide and seek in. Used to hide underneath the computer terminal, computer desk bit. There's like a little wall thing, part of it, a little bit of metal, whatever, that you could hide behind. So you'd hide in there. You can actually sort of scooch under the bed thing. It was like it was a wooden bed frame with a mattress in it, pinned up to the wall with like hooks, and then you'd fold it down carefully, minding your muscles and your back and stuff to not strain things. But you could kind of scooch under the bit at the bottom because it wasn't level with the floor at the bottom. It kind of had a bit of a whatever, yeah. So well, could you scooch under it? I don't know. But you could hide in the you could hide behind the door in there. You could hide in the wardrobe in there. Yeah. So that's that room. But that wasn't my room. That was the spare room. And so the room I considered to be my bedroom was the second room I was in, which is the sort of, well, in terms of size, it would be number 2 in terms of smallest one, next size up. That was my one. So it was size 2 out of 2 out of 4. Yeah. So I had number 2, and that was my room, man. I don't know why it was my room. It wasn't particularly decorated by me, except for all the posters I put up. But the carpet, I didn't choose the carpet. The carpet was the carpet that was already there when we moved into the house. The shelving was the shelving that was already there when we were in the house. I believe the bed was in the same position as it was before. Not much was of my own choosing in there, and even like the books in the bookshelf that I had, some of them weren't even mine, and most of them I never even read either. I don't know, they were just given to me, and I didn't really care for them. I had this series of classic children's books, like Black Beauty and the Railway Children and Treasure Island and all these books, and they just sat there for ages. I never read them. never read them. I think I tried to read a couple of them here and there, and I just couldn't be arsed with it. I went through this phase, this long period in my childhood where I just wouldn't read anything. I just wouldn't read any books, and to the point where they started getting worried about me, the fact that I wasn't reading books at all anymore. Which is strange considering I'm now an author. Bizarre. Maybe I'd already absorbed enough from the books that I had read, like the books that said stop, listen, look, hello, goodbye, start, stop, push, pull, goodbye, whatever. And the Mr. Men books. Sorry. I'm drinking my own puke, by the way. Sorry, it's not puke, it's soup, which is very similar. No. Okay. Where am I? I don't know why I consider it my room. I think because you could look out onto the garden. I made like loads of different contraptions in there as well. I'll have to tell these stories on another time. There's too many of them to go into now. But that felt like my bed. I felt comfortable in that bed. And I never felt completely comfortable in the bed that I'm in now. Maybe the room that I'm in is haunted. I do feel it to be slightly haunted by a poltergeist. But yeah. Maybe I should move into the back room. But the back room feels weird now as well. It doesn't feel like my room anymore because it's more my brother's room. Oh, God. I think the only place I'm going to feel like is my room is when I actually move out of this place to somewhere that does feel like my room. Or if I like build a house, maybe I'll have to actually build a house in order for it to feel like my room. My gran and my granddad built a house. They literally built most of it with their bare hands, I believe. Like, did all the brickwork themselves and designed it themselves and stuff. But that was back in the days when you could just build a house very easily, made of twigs. Anyway, right. So I've got lost again, but let's try and carry on. So yeah, back to the part of making chaos for my family in 2007, 2008. Again, a period of 6 months or so. Now I'm going to check this out because my dad has actually, he did a lot of, I wouldn't call it journaling, but call it documenting. So he documented this period of madness, as he would say, and as I used to say. But he documented this period in my life and in his life to, I don't know, to keep track of it or something, so that he could like make sense of it, or so that he could show it to me later, something like that. So actually, I'll just go back to the huggingbarbedwire.com website, huggingbarbedwire.com, which you can check out as well. And I'll look at the story bit. So you've got this chapter 7, random, full blown. So so this is my dad writing. It says, back from 3 months in the USA with a poncho. That's not actually true. My dad was just being colourful. I didn't have a poncho. I had a poncho before, but that was way before. It was nothing to do with America. I think what he means by the poncho there is he means the golden dress that I had. And I didn't have the golden dress when I came back. I had this purple kind of blanket, like a sheet. It was a purple sheet with a sun god on it, and bits of yellow, I believe. But I didn't have a poncho, so I think he's just kind of putting things together in his mind that had happened in other instances, but I didn't have a poncho when I came back from the USA. So back from 3 months in the USA with a poncho, let's scratch that. Back from 3 months in the USA with a head full of crazy, he says. After missing the previous flight home, yes, true, I'm not ready to come back. This is quotes. I'm not ready to come back. I haven't finished here. Yes, exactly. We'd managed to get him another ticket a week later. I was only a week later after missing the previous flight home. I don't feel that's true. He begged the money to get a bus to the airport. No, I didn't. Did I? Bus to the airport. Leaving his home. I think this is somewhat inaccurate. I don't remember this being the case. He begged the money to get a bus to the airport. Maybe I did. I don't think that's true. Leaving his home under the bridge with a tramp in Baton Rouge near New Orleans. Remember that my dad is going on what I said, and I didn't tell him everything either. So, I think that he's kind of occasionally inserting details himself that he's making up. But we knew he'd got to the airport as he talked to a businessman in the lounge. Sorry, talked to a businessman in the lounge into letting him send an email from his laptop. That is true. I remember that. Tenterhooks are late night and early morning flight times off the internet. So apparently, I missed my previous flight home. I know that. It wasn't a week later. It was more than a week later that I got home. I swear it's more than a week. Either that was a really long week. Bearing in mind, being homeless, sometimes time does drag a little bit when you're homeless. So it says, Ross walks out of arrivals at Heathrow Terminal 3 on Friday the 16th of November at 7 a.m. So I'm guessing that's true because it's very detailed. Friday the 16th of November of 2007 at 7 a.m. That's weird though, because I remember they said that I was supposed to go to a Muse concert or a Bill Bailey concert. I was supposed to go to a Bill Bailey concert, but because I skipped my flight, I didn't end up going. Now, it's strange because the Bill Bailey concert was arranged for us to go as part of my birthday present. My birthday's on the 30th of November. Now, it could be that the that the Bill Bailey concert was before my birthday, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. All these dates, I don't understand them. Okay, so let's go back to this. So it says Ross walks out of arrivals at Heathrow Terminal 3 on Friday the 16th of November at 7 a.m. 2007. Back from destitution in New York. Back from living as a troll under a bridge near New Orleans. Well, I'm going to give him that because it was kind of troll-like, Back from the worst of our night terrors. Riding a wave of relief. Nice. At least he's not dead. He's hairy and smelly. Not too sure I like that appraisal of my situation, but I suppose it's true. I was hairy. I had a beard. I had long hair. Longish hair, compared to now. Kind of like some of the hair that I had in my older videos before I had my haircut in this series of videos. It's similar to that kind of look, really. Unsurprised, but my beard was more straggly than that. I wasn't keeping it. It was just everywhere. Unsurprisingly, his looks and behaviour are feral, like a wild animal. He constantly glances around as though expecting a band of white coats to materialise. Yes, because that had happened before, so I think that's reasonable. And take him away, yeah. He smiles when he sees us, but is still wary as we converge into a huddle of arms, jumpers, this sounds gross, beards and emotions. Go away from me, you strange sick persons. Just sounds like too smothering with the emotion. Sounds like a sickness there. Hi, Ross. This is apparently what he said. He pulls back and stares intently into my eyes. Dad, if you try to have me sectioned, you'll never see me again. His first words. First impressions are so important. For a moment, I'm totally thrown by the contrast between the feelings coursing through me and the blunt reality of his words. I believe him. Good for you. Then he's my son again. This word, my son, as well. My son is another set of words that was repeated to me. So we had your behaviour and my son. Quite often he would say, my son is breaking down. My son is ill. And it always struck me as though he wasn't relating to me as a person. He was relating to me as the role of my son. So, when I was going through the breakdown thing, whatever, that they said was happening to me, I was just becoming more myself. I was just becoming more authentic and more real with people, and no longer playing a role of myself. I was just being myself, which means spontaneously expressing my feelings and acting in accordance with my true feeling inside, rather than an image of myself, or playing a role of how I'm supposed to be, or based on the past of who I thought I was before, whatever. So when I was going through this change of identity from being a kind of mind-based, role-based entity to being a presence-based, authenticity-based entity, person, thing, whatever. As I was going through that, the another thing that kept coming to me was this about my son, my son, my son, my son, my son, my son. So it was, and I even said it to him as well, my dad. I said to him, my dad, my dad, my dad, my son, my son, my dad, my dad, my son, my dad, my son, my dad. So we were relating to each other as roles: father, son, son, father. And for me, the role of father and son was starting to not be relevant anymore as a relational thing. I was not relating to my dad as a father or as a dad. I was relating to him as a person, as a human being, as an equal. And part of what they couldn't deal with, both my mum and my dad, they could not deal with me stepping outside of being in the son role. So they couldn't deal with me being an equal to them. And a lot of their effort, psychological and emotional blackmail basically, went into trying to put me back into the position of son role again, rather than being Ross as a person. It was always Ross, my son, my son, my son, my son. So there was this massive attachment that they had to me in this role of their son. So when I stepped out of playing the I'm your son type of role and I just became myself. Now, it might sound weird to say, well, because technically, obviously, biologically, and in terms of the situation, yes, I am their son. But that doesn't have to be a role that I play, because the whole my son thing came with a dynamic of power, right? So there's a higher and lower than. So the parents are higher than the children in that chain of command. And when I became an equal to them, they became very threatened by me just being a non-role based individual. I can't express it any other way, that I wasn't playing a role of myself anymore. I wasn't I wasn't basing my identity on where I had come from and where I had been and who I had been in the past and everything that had gone before, or what I wanted to be. It was just I was here and now, and as an expressive, momentary, moment by moment, spontaneous being. And anything could happen in that. It's quite unpredictable, in the same way that I am quite unpredictable now, that you don't know exactly what the hell's going to come out of my mouth, and I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. So my dad kept saying, my son is breaking down, my son is ill. And what I understood by that was that his idea of me, his image of me, of my son, was breaking down. Because his image of me that he'd picked up from my behavior from the past, from me growing up, as he'd seen me growing up from being a child to an older child, to being an adolescent, to being a raging teenager, he'd made an image of me as to, this is Ross, this is what he does, this is what he's like, this is his character, this is what he looks like, this is what he sounds like, this is how he speaks like, these are his interests. And so much of that information had changed. So much of my way of being had changed compared with that his clash was he couldn't, the my son thing was not resonating with how I was presenting anymore. So his image of his son was being challenged, intensely challenged. And so he kept saying, my son is breaking down, and you're my son, this type of thing, that type of thing. and I even wrote in my journal at the time an entry addressed to my dad. And bearing in mind I'm saying it, my dad, now, we're just going to have to leave that one for the moment. Addressed to this person by his first name. So I addressed it to him on first name terms, which we'd never done that before. We didn't address our parents by first name terms, and I still don't. Well, occasionally I do, just to see if I can get away with it. But I addressed him on first name terms, on an equal basis, to try and transcend that role mechanism between us. So I didn't want to relate to him as being a son to a father. I wanted to relate to him as being a person to a person, an equal to an equal, a friend to a friend, because that was the age of my life to have gone beyond being a role-based teenage or young adult person, that I wanted to start to have an authentic, mature friend or equal human to human, being to being, person to person relationship, rather than a father in higher position, son in lower position type of relationship. So I wrote this entry in my journal saying that sort of thing, that I'm addressing you as by your name because I want to go beyond the father-son dynamic. And I've given you my journal here so that you can read through it. It started in 1997, so you can read through it, and so that you could know your son before he dies. Or I want you to know me, basically. And I don't think he read it. I think he read that particular part. I don't think he read the rest of my journal. He may have done, he may not have done. He's a fucking dick, man. Like, God damn it, I was really vulnerable to do that, or really brave to do that, courageous, whatever, to say, here's my early journal, I'd like you to read it, I want us to connect. And basically, he came back with, you've got a mental health illness, you've got an illness, you're mentally unwell. Like, the things you're saying here shows that you're unwell, you're ill. It makes me angry to just think of the kind of rejections, basically, that I got of my authentic self during that time. And it didn't stop then. Okay. Right. Right. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the website and see what it's saying. Oh, then he's my son again. This idea of my son. And long-held tension. See, so apparently before that I'm not his son. So I'm only his son under certain conditions where he thinks that I'm his son. Then he's my son again. And long-held tension relaxes into relief and exhaustion. In a way, I want to be like forgiving to the guy, but he's making it extremely hard for me to be forgiving on him because he's just continually judgmental of me. I want to, in a way, I want to see it from his perspective, but I can't, because it's such a condemning perspective to take on. And in order to take on his perspective, I have to see myself how he saw me, which is not in a very positive light at all. And I feel it's a very misguided way that he saw me, and a completely inaccurate way that he saw me. So I don't really want to see it from his perspective either, because in order to see it from his perspective, I have to feel shit about myself, basically. I have to kind of believe what he believed about me. And I don't want to do that, partly because I feel it's not correct, and partly because it's just, fuck, whatever. We drive home, only 20 minutes, chatting inconsequentially, an unspoken contract, keeping things light and superficial. He's safe in the back of the car, an experience overlaid with past memories of family outings. I keep looking at him in the rear view mirror whilst pretending to stretch. Yeah, I fucking hate when he did that. He used to do that all the time. He actually used to do that when I was a kid as well. It was really weird. I knew he was looking at me, and it's sort of like, why are you looking at me, you weird fucking creep? As though he was looking at me and gaining something from looking at me. Like, oh, there's my happy little son. Like, oh, it wasn't looking at me to connect with me. It was like trying to steal some gratification for himself, that I was there in the back, and that he could look at me. Like, maybe as some pride thing, so I was some kind of appendage to him. and there's a sexual tone to it as well. There's like some romantic interest in me somehow. Like he's always looking at me, always looking at me in the rear. So he says he's sneaking a peek, looking at me in the rear view mirror while he's pretending to stretch. I mean, God, it just makes me sick. For a few days, there's a honeymoon period. Like, what? The way that this person related to me as well was like a romantic relationship. Honeymoon period. He used to kiss me on the lips as well to say goodbye or to greet me. It's disgusting. And this is the sort of thing that he didn't even realize that this was inappropriate. I don't think he still does. I don't think he even remembers. He kind of selectively blacks out everything that he ever did that is kind of sexually inappropriate or physically inappropriate or just had a creepy vibe to it. And he wouldn't ever admit to it. For a few days as a honeymoon period, he sleeps a lot, like a hippie hedgehog hibernating under the duvet. We know that psychosis has been spreading through his mind, like metastatic cells. But for the moment, we just want to feel him here, to hear him, smell him. You people are gross. Like, it's like they treat me like some kind of lost 3-year-old come back, and they just want to know that their precious little 3-year-old is back, and they want to smell him. And it's like, ugh, you gross people. It just is like a romantic relationship that's going on there, ugh, and some neediness around it. You know, like they're really. And this is only him. This is not my mum speaking. This is him speaking. It's not we just want to feel him here. It's he wanted to feel me there. It sounds gross. He wanted to hear me. He wanted to smell me. It's like some weird, sick relationship. It doesn't sound nice. It sounds like someone who is taking pleasure in the possession of someone. Like, you know, enjoying me as an object of sense gratification rather than as a being unto myself. Ugh. Simple physical experiences is what he says next. It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And the thing is that the way he's writing about it is as though it's deeply meaningful. How all these experiences, we just want to feel him here, to hear him, smell him. Simple physical experiences. Ugh, just gross. Makes me want to puke. Not just because of the soup. We try to ignore everything else. A willing suspension of knowledge for a moment of relief. You're a fucking dick and you're in denial. Soaking in our sun. It's just, makes me feel sick. Why are you soaking me in? Get away from me, you crazy, weird pervert. And watching him and his brother brothering each other like guitar-wielding puppies. It's just leave me alone. Leave me alone. You're taking pleasure out of me. You're taking pleasure out of me. You're not being there with me. You're observing and taking from me by the way that you're like, it's sort of like, just, blah. You're not being there giving of love. You're there taking of enjoyment from the experience of me as an object. You know, I can hear some of you like having the thought of stop being so harsh, but it's just gross. It's utterly gross how I was used as an object of gratification or of some strange misguided romance in my dad's mind. I need to put that down now. Oh, God, so presumptuous as well. It just presumes my experience as well. Psychosis was making its way through his mind. Fuck off. Nice interpretation, but fuck off. That's just gross, man. You know, if I met a person who behaved like my dad did towards me, 10 minutes with him and I'd be out of there. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I'd have sussed out they're a creep. I'll be out of there. Maybe even less. 10 minutes maximum. I'd be like, you're a creep. You're just a creep. You've got some sexual deviancy or some sexual issues that don't want to be near you. You're a creep. Hence why I tend not to spend very much time with my dad, and when I do, I keep a certain level of physical distance from him as much as possible. He had a habit of always putting his hand on my leg in the car as well. A slight bit of progress on that. He went to do it this time. He did it, and then he changed his, instead of being a pat, he changed it to be like a sort of nudge instead, which is, a nudge is fine. I don't mind a nudge, but a kind of pat and a kind of squeeze of the leg, and that's not appropriate. That's inappropriate. But yeah, a little nudge like that. Okay, fine. I'd prefer it not to be on the leg. Prefer it to be in the shoulder or in the back or something, or in the arm. I have certain. It's a weird noise. Was that a weird noise? I have like certain areas that I'm comfortable with being kind of touched in a manly sort of way. You know, like haha, that kind of thing. I do not appreciate being spanked or touched on the leg or touched on the bottom or touched on the lower back or touched on the legs. Did I say legs? Knees. Overly long hand touching. Handshake's fine. A brief hug is fine, but I'm not even too keen on hugs with my dad either, because there's some kind of penis thing going on down there, and I'm not like. We have just a history of him being a creep, basically.